Time for EU to launch joint borrowing and challenge US dollar. Macron. US judge rejects California law that banned masks for federal officers. Trump says China's Xi to visit US toward the end of the year. Czech Prime Minister in favor of social media ban for under-15s. Sunamania fuels Takaichi surge ahead of Japan election. French President Emmanuel Macron has called on the European Union to introduce joint borrowing, such as issuing Eurobonds, arguing it would strengthen Europe's economic power and reduce reliance on the US dollar. In interviews published on Tuesday, Macron said the EU is less indebted than both the United States and China, and is failing to use that advantage at a time of intense global competition in technology and investment. Macron warned that not tapping into joint borrowing capacity would be a serious strategic error, as Europe risks falling behind in the race to fund innovation and economic growth. The proposal is likely to reignite debate within the EU, where some member states remain cautious about shared debt and fiscal integration. A federal judge in Los Angeles has temporarily blocked a California law that would have banned federal officers from wearing masks while on duty. U.S. District Judge Christina Snyder ruled on Monday that the United States government is likely to succeed in arguing the law is unconstitutional, and issued an order preventing it from being enforced. However, the judge upheld a separate California law requiring federal officers to display identification while performing their duties. California Governor Gavin Newsom welcomed the ruling on identification requirements, calling it a clear win for the rule of law, and saying accountability requires visible identification. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi praised the decision blocking the mask ban, saying federal officers are frequently harassed, targeted, and attacked while carrying out their duties. The laws were signed by Newsom in September, following protests in Los Angeles over immigration enforcement during the presidency of Donald Trump. The Department of Justice sued California in November, arguing the state could not regulate how federal officers perform their work. Judge Snyder agreed that the mask ban violated the U.S. Constitution's Supremacy Clause, which prevents states from interfering with federal operations. She said the law improperly singled out federal officers, while exempting state and local law enforcement. U.S. President Donald Trump has said he plans to host Chinese President Xi Jinping at the White House later this year, as the world's two largest economies seek to stabilize relations strained by a prolonged trade war. Trump made the remarks in an interview with NBC News, recorded on Wednesday, the same day the two leaders held a wide-ranging discussion on trade, Taiwan, Russia's war in Ukraine, and Iran. Trump is expected to visit China in April, ahead of Xi's anticipated trip to the United States toward the end of the year. Calling the relationship important, Trump said the two countries remain deeply connected despite recent tensions. Since returning to office a year ago, he has imposed a series of tariffs, including sector-specific levies on steel and automobiles, though Washington and Beijing reached a broad truce after a sharp escalation last spring. Xi, who last visited the United States in 2023, warned Trump to act with caution on arms sales to Taiwan, which China claims as its territory. He also expressed hope that trade and other disputes could be resolved amicably. China's state broadcaster CCTV quoted Xi as saying that building trust step by step is key to managing relations. Trump described the conversation as excellent, adding that both leaders recognized the importance of maintaining stable ties. Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babiš said on Sunday he supports banning children under the age of 15 from using social media, as European governments increasingly move toward stricter rules to protect young people online. In a video message posted on social media, Babiš said experts had warned him that social media can be severely harmful to children and stressed the need to protect minors. He did not outline how such a ban would be enforced. Later, Deputy Prime Minister Karel Havlíček said the government is seriously considering proposing a ban. Speaking to CNN Prima News, he said legislation could be introduced this year if the cabinet agrees. The proposal comes amid a broader European shift. Spain and Greece put forward similar bans last week, while Britain is considering restrictions modeled on Australia, which in December became the first country to ban social media use for children under 16. France is also working on legislation to prohibit social media access for children under 15. The measures reflect growing concern among governments and regulators worldwide about the impact of screen time and potentially addictive digital platforms on children's development and mental health. Japan's first female Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, is expected to lead the ruling Liberal Democratic Party to a decisive victory in upcoming lower house elections, according to opinion polls. Surveys suggest the LDP and its coalition partner could win more than 300 of the 465 seats in Parliament's lower house, enough to regain a two-thirds majority. That would mark a sharp political turnaround for a party that lost its majority just 8 months ago amid internal scandals. Takaichi, who has been in office for 4 months, has quickly become one of Japan's most high-profile leaders. Her popularity surge, often dubbed Sana Mania, has been driven by her active social media presence, modest personal background, and image as a commoner prime minister, in contrast to Japan's traditional political elite. A self-described admirer of former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, Takaichi is among the LDP's most conservative figures. She opposes allowing female members of the imperial family to inherit the throne, and supports rules requiring married couples to share a single surname. On the economy, Takaichi has pledged sweeping tax cuts, including a temporary suspension of the 8% consumption tax on food, aimed at easing pressure on households. In foreign policy, she has met leaders including former US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping, though her comments on Taiwan have strained relations with China.